So let me first introduce you to coming to the stage, Tanya Sam, known as It's Tanya Time, co-founder of Elizabeth and Minnie, an independent publisher amplifying underrepresented voices, particularly women of color. She is the host of Tanya Time Book Club. Up next, seen on Good Morning America in the Los Angeles Times, author of Fighting for Our Friendships, Danielle Bayard Jackson.
Woo, Danielle! Yes,
they all look so beautiful. Up next, we have international speaker, preacher, author, and the head of global faith-based partnerships at Facebook. Welcome, Nona Jones. I love all these bright colors, right?
I know.
Black women look so good in bright colors. And lastly, award-winning activist, journalist, former Washington Post columnist, and the founder of Urban Cusp, a cutting-edge online community highlighting faith and social change, Rahel Tesfamariam.
Good morning, Essence. You guys, it's 30 years. It is Sunday. You are exactly where you are supposed to be. How are you this morning? Woo, yes. Walking in here was such a vibe. We walked through church. We walked through food. We walked through everything. So we are here with these beautiful, intelligent, smart, sparkly Black women, and we are going to talk about mental health. We are going to talk about love and abundance and community. So I just want to welcome you all to the stage. I'm so excited to be curating this panel today. And number one, this beautiful author stage. You know, I love Black books. I cannot lie. I literally get paid to read books all day, and I can't tell you about what a dream that is for me, what a dream it is to sit on this stage. So if you are one of my book besties and you're in the Tanya Time Book Club, even if you are not, you are welcome to join. Everyone can sit with us. We use conversations like this to deepen our friendships, to build community, and to cultivate connection. So I'm really excited to be here on this panel today, and let's dive in. The three of you are all incredible authors. Some of you have written multiple books, but we're taking the conversation of all of your books to really talk about how we can, again, talk about wellness, bring tactical strategies into how we can make deeper connections and just live a better, more beautiful, abundant life. So I'm going to start off with you, Rahel. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning.
Your book, can we hear it? Let me see.
Can you hear me?
A little bit louder, if that
hear
can go.
me?
Okay. Can you guys hear her?
Okay.
Okay, wonderful. So in your book, Imagine Freedom, it was so beautiful. You discuss the need to decolonize our minds. These are wonderful statements and very big statements. But how does that process contribute to cultivating love and feeding the soul, particularly for people of African descent?
Okay, so is this loud enough?
Here, I might switch your mic. Yeah. Let's try that.
Okay, perfect. So I'm going to put on my preacher hat for a second and say that the book of Genesis in the Bible starts with the enemy coming to Eve, and he comes for her mind. Immediately, the attack is on her mind. And one of the things that he wants to do is come between her and God, and come between her and her man, and have a multi-generational effect on her and her children, that her children are cursed, and generations of people are cursed through the decision that she makes in that moment, right? So the well-being of a woman's mind is integral to the well-being of our families, our children, and humanity, right? So we got to fight for our minds like it's the most important fight we'll ever experience in life. And the reason that it's so important is the lie that he told was that God did not love them, that God did not have their best interests at heart. And that's the same lie that is fed to us, that we are not worthy, we are not enough, that nothing we do is enough, that no matter how hard we work, it's not enough. And so we live this lie that we are not enough. And Black people whose labor has defined their worth for all of our time in the United States have to decolonize our minds from that lie that we are not enough. And it starts with the Black woman. When we are told our bodies are not beautiful enough, when we're told that our hair is not beautiful enough, we got to get over this lie that whatever we do is not enough. So that is the journey that I think starts for African people decolonizing their minds.
Thank you. Oh, I see what I'm gonna have to talk really loud, but trust me, I'm very good at this. I hope you guys can still see me. Danielle, I'm gonna take it from Rahel's question to yours as we're talking about enough. And in your book, Fighting for Our Friendships, it's a really beautiful book because I feel like my female friendships and the community I build around them are so integral to feeling enough. Talk to me a little bit about how our relationships impact our overall feeling of wellness and love.
I'm so glad that you enjoyed the book. Oftentimes when we're talking about women's friendship, a lot of times it comes in these articles that are very cushy and it has tips on like how to go to brunch and all that's really great. But we have to have a certain urgency around pouring into our friendships with other women because the research, thank you so much. Because the research doesn't lie. And the research tells us that the number one thing that determines your overall well-being and life satisfaction is the quality of your relationships. But that's not just reduced to our romantic relationships, but to our platonic relationships as well. And so the research tells us that when women have healthy friendships with other women, women who have female-dominated circles, they are paid more than women who do not have them. Women who have female friends have better emotional regulation. So there are a lot of benefits to specifically having relationships with other women, but the question becomes, how do we tactically nurture those friendships to be healthier?
All right, we might be switching mics back and forth because this is the level we want so that you guys can hear us out there. Nona, if I have to give you this mic, I will pass the mic. In your book, Killing Comparison, which was really fascinating to me as well, because I feel like in this age of social media, in this age of pressures to be like the Joneses next door, to wear what someone else has, to want what someone else has, that killing piece really takes a piece of our soul. Talk to me about how we can overcome this urge to kill and to kill this comparison and find peace within ourselves.
All right, Tess. Okay, come on, volume. First of all, y'all look so beautiful. So I wrote the book Killing Comparison because I think that we often walk into the successful chapter that a person's life is on, and we just assume that's their whole story. Like, we assume that if a person is up here on this platform, that they've got it all together, that they're never concerned about what other people think or say. But that is not true, because you can be the most beautiful, the most handsome, the most wealthy, the most powerful, the most well-known person on earth and still be insecure, because insecurity is not a function of what you have, it's a function of what your identity is secured to. And if your identity is secured to an insecure foundation, which is anything that is subject to the approval or the opinion of another person, you will be insecure. And so sometimes what happens is we secure our identity to our possessions, to the type of car we have, the house we have. We could even secure our identity to our marital status, to our bank account balance. And all of these things are subject to other people's assessment and evaluation. And so the contention that I make in Killing Comparison is that the first step you have to take to kill comparison is you have to accept the truth that before you were even formed in your mother's womb, you had purpose. Before your mother and your father even met, there was intention. You are not an accident. You are not a mistake. And therefore, you should not submit your value to the approval, the opinion, or the assessment of another human being who is only as valuable as you are. And it starts with that recognition.
Oh, thank you so much. And it's a lot of these times things are easier said than done, right? Because we know this. We know the gram will have us up on Sunday morning looking at Instagram before we look at our scriptures. We know that we're going to be like, well, look at that. They worked hard. I was in that same job. So I want to talk about some practical tips, because we hear this all the time, but I want us to leave and be like, how did you really do it? What are the things that really fill your cup and feed your soul, so that we can all leave here just a little bit bigger in spirit, bigger in heart, bigger in light, and bigger in love. I'm going to come back to you, Rahel. Tell me some of the practical tips that you've used to really fill your cup.
I'd be lying if I said I had good spiritual practices. I'm not that person that wakes up and does daily devotional and does meditation. I give you props if you do. That's not how I operate. I walk through life with a spiritual lens. I'm in conversation with God every minute of the day. I'm thinking and reflecting about God and Christ. Right before I spoke, I went into the bathroom and I prayed. I mean, every minute of my life is filled with prayer, is filled with reflection. I'm in conversation with God because God's my best friend, right? So I don't have practices. It is my way of surviving this world. I see spiritual practice as a survival mechanism. And if we looked at it like that, right? Because now there's this new age terminology about spiritual practices. Black people have been using faith to survive for centuries in this country. It is how our ancestors made it so that we're sitting here today. It is their prayers. It's Harriet Tubman looking to the North Star. It's Nat Turner looking to the Bible. Our ancestors fought for our liberation rooted in spiritual practices. So there is no distinction between black people, faith, and liberation. We have always connected faith and freedom. If black people want to be free, it is so intimately tied to their lives of faith. And the last thing that I would say is that we've gotten too obsessed with luxury, right? This capitalistic country makes us think that our consumption is what matters. It is not what we consume. It's who we are. It's who we're becoming. It's our connection to God. It's our prayer life. It's how we make other people feel. If somebody doesn't feel better because you were in their space, then what day have you lived? What experience have you had? Somebody should feel better because you were in the room.
Oh, thank you. That's a word, you guys. Thank you. And you know what's really interesting about what you said? It's the practice. And listen, as we're all getting a little bit older, I'm in my 40s now, my practice and how I view my practice of spirituality, of meditation, it is ingrained into me in a way that is so different than I think my parents taught me. Culturally, we thought to do. You know, you had to get down on your knees and pray before you go to bed. I walk every day in prayer. I walk every day in light, and I try to spread that light to the world. But as we talk about practice, one of the things, as I said, I'm so grateful for is my female friendships. And, you know, I always say your vibe attracts your tribe. So Danielle, when we talk about how you look at, in practice, being a good friend and therefore finding good friends, talk about, in your book, when you talk about the pieces of friendship and how you go about being a good friend.
So I love that we're having more open public discourse around being a better friend. Okay. Can you hear me? I was saying that I'm so excited that we're having broader, open conversations about friendship because the romance aspect has taken so much of our time, energy, and money. So I'm so glad to see people kind of elevated to the same level. When it comes to being a good friend, there are so many different tips and tricks people give. But I always like to say, start with that list that you're crafting of what you want your bestie to be. Am I showing up in the same way? Which sounds very simple, maybe even reductive, but it really is that simple. And when it comes to having good emotional, social health, I recently learned this formula that I wanted to share with you because it's very practical. If you're trying to be a better friend and more social, there's a framework. It's called the 5-3-1 framework for people who want better social health. And I know that's kind of a new term, but they're hoping that it becomes just as common as the term mental health. So if you want better social health, which is directly tied to how long you live and how satisfied you feel with your life, they're saying that it's 5-3-1, meaning 5, you interact with 5 different groups of people every week, meaning like your romantic partner, your neighbor, your coworker, your gym friends, your happy hour friends, right? So 5 different kinds of people. 3 means you're maintaining 3 close relationships, and 1 meaning 1 hour of social interaction a day. So for those of us asking, how can I be a better friend? How can I be socially plugged in for my health? That 5-3-1 formula is a practical guide to help us get there.
I'm gonna ask one more question, because I wanna talk a little bit about conflict and friendship too. Some of y'all might know me from the Real Housewives of Atlanta. And I like to say I was on that show and I prefer to read books instead of read people. I'm not good at it, y'all. I was horrible. I cried on national television. But conflict in our female friendships, and especially for black women, oftentimes it's normalized. We're supposed to read each other. We're supposed to tear each other down. It was funny that she snapped on you. I was asserting myself. It breaks us, y'all. That should not be part of our baseline. It should not be part of our friendships. Tell me how we're supposed to deal with this and how we can flip this narrative. How do we deal with conflict? Or is it something that we could just walk away from and say, I'm not doing it?
Okay, yes. Okay, so there's a difference between healthy conflict and unhealthy conflict. And the research tells us that on the other side of healthy conflict lies the platonic intimacy you've been looking for. So we do have to anticipate some kind of tension, right? It actually functions to bring us closer. The problem is the reading, the bringing you down, the this and that, because I'm trying to assert myself and my dominance that you're not going to walk all over me. And many of us came up in a household where we were told, you don't let her talk to you like that. You don't let her run you like that. And I believe some of us might be overcorrecting for that and being strong in that way, but it's not healthy. And so the first way to have healthy conflict is to ask ourselves, right now in this moment of tension, are we working to come together? Are we trying to solve a problem? Am I trying to meet a need? Or am I trying to assert myself over you, let you know you're not gonna run me, and doing things that keep us from harmony, like the silent treatment, or I'm talking to a third party, but I'm not talking to you. Those things are not functioning toward bringing us healing and reconciliation. And so the last thing I would say is I know that sometimes conflict is like a staple of women's friendships, but you have to ask yourself if it's functioning to be a healthy situation, but it is inevitable. So on the other end, for those of us who leave and we cut people off at any sign of attitude or misunderstanding, I do get concerned about the degree to which we will experience platonic intimacy if I'm leaving every time you turn me off. So I think the key is maybe kind of finding that balance.
Thank you. Hi. Okay, so we actually bonded over so many different things that fall into the wellness and health, self-care. We had a whole conversation about running back there, and you've been very candid about your journey with weight loss, finding God. I want to talk a little bit about toxic comparison, but also I want you to tell us some of the tools that you use to really make sure that you can incorporate wellness, both in your friendships, but just in your life as well, too.
Sure. No, thank you for the question. I will say, and I think the point you made about toxic and healthy, there is a distinction that's important. Comparison in and of itself is not a bad thing. It's natural. If you have eyes to see, you will compare. But in the medical community, when you inhale air, that's considered inspiring. You inspire air, right? So when you look at somebody and you see them doing something that is amazing, it can inspire you, it invigorates you, it enlivens you, right? A lot of times social media gets blamed for causing comparison, but two people can look at the same post and respond to it two different ways depending on the position of their heart. So a person can look at your post, right, and be like, oh, girl, you doing it, you doing it. Another person will look at it and be like, oh, she thinks she's all that. It's not because of you, it's because of them. And so toxic comparison causes us to look at somebody else's success as our failure. Toxic comparison causes us to see somebody else's win as our loss. And the key to getting free from toxic comparison, again, goes back to identity. When you compare yourself to somebody else and feel that you are lacking, it's not because they are more, it's because you believe that you are less. It starts within the mind, and you have to believe the truth that you were born on purpose with purpose. You are not an accident. Their win is not your loss. There is not a scarcity of blessings. There is not a dearth of favor. Everything that you need and everything that you are designed to have, you have access to. That is the key. And the second thing I would offer, we have to stop denying insecurity. We will say, oh, I'm fine. No, I'm glad she's winning. No, you're not. Because when you see her winning, you feel some type of way. We spend more energy denying it than simply confronting it. When you start to feel that insecurity rising up, instead of saying, no, I love it that she's winning, you need to say, you know what, there's something going on inside of me that I need to do some work on. Surrender it to God and begin to do the work to change the beliefs that made you think that you are less because it seems like she is more.
Oh, thank you. This idea of do the work. Y'all, I hear it all the time, do the work. I want us to talk a little bit, and sorry guys, I'm going off here, but I want us to leave and know how to do the work, right? Because I recognize that. I've had people say to me, oh, you know, when you see something and it triggers something in it's some sort of emotion, whether it's super positive or super negative, tap into that. How do you do the work for you? And it could be as easy as meditation. I found during the pandemic, I got into meditation. I meditate every day. I didn't know how to meditate. To be honest, my Peloton app taught me how to meditate. And it was like a light went off in my life, and I am so grateful for it. But that has also helped me to learn how to do the work. I tap into those feelings, those funny feelings. I sit with them and go, how does this make me feel? Why am I feeling like this? I write about it, I journal about it. But talk about how you do the work for yourself.
Yeah, this might be a very on-brand answer as a person who studies friendship and community and what the research says. But one part of doing the work is being in community. And that might sound like an obvious answer, but the reason I stress that is because sometimes as soon as we are going through it, or when we are coming off of maybe being hurt or harmed, a lot of us, especially us in our strength, will say, you know what, I'm gonna do me right now. You know what, I need to go heal right now, like in hibernation. And I get that, and alone time is very necessary. But healing happens in community. I need to position myself to experience what therapists refer to as corrective experiences to show me, oh, I am something, or, oh, people can be trusted. I can't do that doing the work by myself in isolation. And so I would just say, as we all kind of put together our respective toolkits on healing and doing the work, I would just urge all of us to make sure that being in community, even though we're tempted to go and isolate, is something that we prioritize.
I'm gonna shameless plug the Tanya Time Book Club because y'all healed me when we didn't even know. We were locked up during the pandemic, and I meet women all the time who come up to me and say, being in a book club, reading this book, it really healed me. And it's just about community, because sometimes the people immediately around you aren't the ones that you can go to talk about these things. So I do think there are positive aspects to social media, because you can be at home, in your bonnet, in your closet, talking about a book, and using the lens of fiction or books, find healing. Yeah.
You know, I wanted to add, one of the most practical ways to deal with insecurity is a process called reframing. So if you think of a frame causes you to focus on something, right? But if you change the position of the frame, it will change your focus. So let me give you an example. For years, I was insecure about the stretch marks on my arms. I would not wear sleeveless shirts. I would look at people who had those perfect, chiseled tone arms and be like, man, I could never be like that. Until I visited a hospital where I saw a woman who had lost her arm in a motorcycle accident. And I realized in that moment that my arms may have stretch marks running up and down, but guess what? I can still work my arms. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna honor this woman who can no longer use her arm by wearing my arms out. So what happened in that moment is I became free because I reframed the problem from a problem to a blessing. And so what I would encourage you to do is consider whatever it is that triggers your insecurity, how can you reframe it so that it's no longer something to feel defective about, but now it's something to celebrate.
Oh, I love that. Everyone here has some tiny little thing that they need to reframe today. Let it go. Let it go.
I mean, I have to say there's power in humility. Oftentimes we have a false sense of security rooted in ego. And ego is actually not healthy for us at all, because ego breeds comparison. Ego breeds looking at the world and seeing the cup always half empty. I think there's a way in which you humble yourself by following, for me, it's following Christ as a model. Let those who are amongst you understand that they may not be like us, but we're striving to be like him, all right? They not like us, but we're striving to be like him. They not like us is rooted in comparison. It's rooted in seeing the inferiority of other people. You can't take pride in making somebody else small. You can't become big because you make somebody else inferior. There is power in looking to a God for myself who taught me that the greatest thing that I can do is sacrifice, right? Christ became who he became in the world because he was willing to go on the cross. The problem is we all want the resurrection without the crucifixion, right? You can't get the glory without the grief. It all comes in a package. And sometimes you reach the mountaintop after you've seen it from the valley. And so a lot of us rush to the we rush to the resurrection, but the power is being able to survive and thrive in the valley moments of life. So humility is powerful, And you know what? Pride is not power. Pride is not power. You may take pride in yourself, right? But there's something so much deeper than that, which is a love for self and a love for the collective. So much of our insecurity is rooted in American individualism. We are taught that we matter, that our family matters. It is all about us. But we come from an African tribal people who are driven by collectivity. So one of the ways in which you come out of the narcissism is to not just see yourself, but to see the power of the collective.
Oh my, yes. Thank you, Raheel. So what you said was so powerful, because I know I was in the Superdome last night. My voice sounds like this because I blame Usher. And I am going to sort of say something funny because I am Canadian and I support Drake all the way. That is the sixth god. I grew up in Toronto. And I do find it funny how we're really trying to trample that man down. But that's just what we do, right? They're not like us. They're not like, he's in hiding. And it's the rap game, we get it. But those are really tough comparisons. And we laugh and we go, ha, ha, ha. I mean, we're destroying that man publicly. And I'm not vouching for him. I'm not saying that. But that's just what we do out of sport or humor for people that are humans.
Okay, so I'm glad you brought this up. Oftentimes when we think about wellness, we don't think about how wellness is affected by white supremacy, right? Our wellness is deeply tied to a system designed for us to be suicidal, designed for us to be unhealthy, designed for us to be making it to the grave and not to graduation, right? We are a part of a system designed for our failure and our despair. And so even what you see with Kendrick and Drake, I applaud Kendrick for bringing up a conversation about colonization, because black people don't often think about how we're colonized. We're not the Africans who had our land invaded, but we have our own forms of psychological, emotional, and spiritual colonization. But what we do not think about is that this fight between Drake and Kendrick is the same fight that brings brown people against black people, right? That tells us that they got the black jobs and that the immigrants are coming for the black jobs. There's no difference. It's class division, it's social division, it's racial division, because the more divided we are, the more powerful they are, right? The more divided we are, the more powerful they are.
And it's a real word. We have gone off like our topic, but it comes back to mental health and mental wellness. And you couldn't have told me 10 years ago we'd be sitting up here openly talking about our struggles with mental health, mental wellness, and sometimes even the terminology and the words that we use when I'm on a panel talking about mental wellness or my mental insecurity. So just even tweaking the words and standing up here, being vulnerable, sharing through your books. Let's go back a little bit quickly I want you guys to tell me as we wrap up here, remind everyone the name of your book, where to find you, and give us your 60-second elevator quote on your book, because these are incredible. Listen, we love our Black authors. We want you to support and buy their Black authors. So as we close out, please, shameless plug, because this is the community that cultivates support. This is the community that will share about your book so that others can learn from the lessons that you painstakingly wrote about.
Looking at the clock, 30 seconds. Okay, my book is called Fighting for Our Friendships, and if you are interested in the research around women's connection and conflict specifically, what does the research say around how we can have friendships with more depth and longevity? And I think that it's perfect for anybody who is realizing that their friendships could be healthier, but you don't really know how to do that. The research is showing you how to do that. So for people who take an interest in that, I think it could be really helpful.
Awesome. Nona Jones, my book is Killing Comparison. It's available over there. And I would tell you, I am so vulnerable in this book, y'all. I will give you just one quick peek. About 6 years ago, I don't know about y'all, I was born with my mom has very voluptuous breasts. My father had a flat chest, of course, but my mom had a flat booty. I had my father's chest and my mom's booty, all right? So some years ago, I decided that I was gonna fix it. I had worked out, done the squats, done the Romanian deadlifts, all that, girl, didn't build a booty. So I decided I was gonna buy me a booty, right? I was flying to California to get the procedure, and I heard the Lord say, if I wanted you to have a booty, I would have given you a booty. I didn't give you a booty to keep you humble. I said, well, Lord, I'm gonna be humble with a booty. So I went, got the procedure. 6 months later, y'all, my booty was gone, all right? Now, I'm telling you this because the reason I did that is because of insecurity. And if this is something you struggle with, Killing Comparison is for you.
Oh, thank you, Nona.
My name is Rahel Tesfamarian. My book is Imagine Freedom, Transforming Pain into Political and Spiritual Power. I have to say to the black women today, keep in mind that a black woman is in the second most powerful position in the world, Kamala Harris. And you know what? They're pretending like she doesn't exist, just trying to figure out who's gonna replace Biden. We are the most disrespected people in the world. Black women are. There is an entire empire designed to pretend like our wombs don't matter, our breasts don't matter, our minds don't matter. And we gotta reclaim our power in our families, in our bedrooms, in our relationships, in the voting polls. We gotta reclaim power. My book is about reclaiming power because you know what? They made us think that everything's about how we look. It's not about how we look. It's about the change we can make in this world. We get one life to make a change in the world, to make a change in your family, in your community, in your own self. That's what my book is about. Transformation, baby. Transformation.
Thank you, Rahel, Nona, Danielle. Thank you so much. Thank you, Essence. We love each and every one of you. You are enough. You are the light. Go where your tribe finds your vibe and have a beautiful Essence weekend. Bye, y'all. Thank you.